Hello and welcome to Byju's Exam Prep IAS. Let's get started and look into the first article. The first article says, can online bullying of women be punished? What is the context? There was an application developed by a group of people. What was this application all about? This had taken images of women belonging to a particular community. These pictures were posted on the application, and the application had images where it made a proposal for a fake auction. In this particular backdrop, we have to understand that since the women's permission were not taken, since the women did not give permission for posting of these images, it violates her privacy, it has violated her right to consent, it has violated the dignity of the women, and ultimately the modesty of the women is violated. It is in this particular backdrop we have to understand what are the laws in India to prevent cyberbullying. What are the laws in India that are necessary in the near future so that such actions are not taken by the people? Let us try and understand what are the laws that will prevent such cyberbullying of women. When it comes to India, we have two important laws which prevent cyberbullying. One happens to be the Indian Penal Code, the other happens to be the Information Technology Act. Let us try and understand some of the important provisions when it comes to the Indian Penal Code as well as the Information Technology Act. When we look into this article, it says that the minute this particular case came out in the public forum, we have the police officials, the investigative authorities, which did take up multiple sections from the Indian Penal Code. This can be broadly categorized into those that were targeting breaching the religious tranquility on the one side, on the other side, it focuses on women issues. What is it about the religious sections? When we look into section 153A of the Indian Penal Code, section 295A of the Indian Penal Code, these are the ones which were targeting a particular religion. Why? Because the women and their pictures were taken of a specific religion. Because it was targeting a specific and a particular religion, they wanted to ensure that the peace and tranquility in the system is not present. They wanted to create disharmony in the society. They wanted to make sure that there is hatred that is brewing in the society. And as a result, what did the police invoke? The police invoked section 153A, which deals with offense of promoting enmity between different groups on the grounds of religion. Then it invoked section 153B of the Indian Penal Code, which leads to imputations, assertions prejudicial to the national integration. And it also invoked section 295A, which provides punishment for deliberate and malicious acts intended to outrage religious feelings. Since it was targeting women of a particular religion, all these sections were imposed on such perpetrators of crime. This is one part of the story. The other part of the story is in specific reference to the women issues. What happens if there is a particular woman whose rights are violated? In such a case, these laws may be invoked. Before we understand what are these sections, we need to understand what is bullying. What happens in bullying? This happens on the offline format. This can take place in the physical world where you have the perpetrator of crime. This perpetrator of crime intentionally wants to hurt another woman, and as a result he can create a problem to that particular woman. This can result in pain, anguish and grief for that particular woman, and this can result in physical and emotional trauma for that particular woman. So what would happen? You would have a perpetrator of crime irritating a woman, and this violates some of the rights that are accorded to the women. This is what is called as bullying on the offline forum or in the physical world. When this is imported on the virtual world, that is what is called as cyberbullying. So in bullying, what would happen? There will be name calling, there will be intimidation, there will be social ostracization, and at the same time defamation as well into the physical world. And if it goes on the online platform where they're making use of devices like computers, mobile phones, laptops, where they're texting, making phone calls, sending emails, dropping instant messages on the social media platforms, or in fact on the chat rooms, that is what is called as cyberbullying. So if it takes the form of cyberbullying, that is when these sections can be invoked. So these sections can be invoked if it has specific reference to the online world, or it can also be invoked if it is physical in nature in the offline world. What are the characteristics of cyberbullying? We have one of the word called as doxing. What is this doxing? Let's say for example there is a woman. The woman has a personal details. It can be a phone number, it can be her email ID, or it can be her personal information. This information is put out on an online platform where they collect the personal information, and this is put out on the online platform where many people take this information and start contacting that woman, which is what is called as doxing. So basically taking of the personal information of a woman, putting it on an online platform, and this information is taken by multiple other people, so they start irritating the women by constantly sending messages and making phone calls, is what is called as doxing. Then we also have character assassination as well, where a person's reputation is immediately tarnished, and at the same time there is unfair criticism without any value to that particular woman, which is also called as character assassination. So when it takes all these forms, this results in what is called as cyberbullying. So when cyberbullying happens, what are the legal provisions that we have? First, let us take the example of section 354D. What happens in section 354D? We have a man who starts liking a particular woman. So what does he do? He starts following her every single day. This particular woman kind of feels the suffocation. So as a result, what does she do? She starts telling to this man that she does not like, so she shows disinterest towards this particular person. In spite of showing disinterest, saying no to that particular person, not to follow that person, this man continues to irritate the women in the physical world. That is what is called as stalking. So stalking basically means this person constantly interferes with the daily activities, goes on to watch her every single day, which creates a suffocating environment for this woman, leading to what is called as stalking. So this can happen on the physical world. It can also happen on the online world as well, where they constantly stalk, making use of the internet, email, or any electronic communication mode. That is what is called as stalking. So if a person is caught for stalking for the very first time, he can be punished with an imprisonment for a period of 3 years when he is caught for the first time. He can also be imposed with fine as well, and if he is caught for the second time or after the first time, subsequent number of times, this person will be provided with an imprisonment which is for 5 years and shall also be liable to fine as well. So the first key provision that we have to prevent cyberbullying is section 354D of the Indian Penal Code, which deals with stalking. So it punishes every form of stalking, including the online stalking. So that happens to be the first key section under the Indian Penal Code. Then we have section 500 of the Indian Penal Code. What is section 500? This is about punishment for the defamation. Let's say for example there is a person, a guy who is attacking a woman on the basis of the reputation by making a false allegation, by making a false publication. In this particular case, if a person defames another woman, this can be imposed with a simple imprisonment for a term which may extend up until 2 years, or with fine, or with both. So the second important section is section 500, which deals with defamation in the Indian Penal Code. Then we have section 509 of the Indian Penal Code. What does it speak about? It speaks about intending to insult the modesty of the woman. What do we understand by modesty of the woman here? Modesty basically stands for sexual dignity of a woman. It is a virtue which is attached to a woman owing to her gender. So what happens when there is an outrage? It basically means there is a physical act that is done by a man against a woman. What does this mean? Let me give you an example. Let's say for example a man disrobes a woman, uses defamatory remarks, forcefully drags her out of her house to commit a sexual assault. All these are examples of violating the modesty of a woman. So if there is violation of modesty of a woman, what we can have is section 509 of the Indian Penal Code, which can be enforced on this particular person, and he can be punished as well. This is in reference to the Indian Penal Code. Then we have the Information Technology Act, where section 67 of the IT Act can be imposed, where punishment can be given to that particular person for transmitting obscene material material in an electronic form via the computer, mobile, or the laptop. So basically, if he is convicted for the very first time, he would have an imprisonment of up to 3 years, and the fine can go up to 5 lakh, and subsequent number of times then this person would have an imprisonment of up to 5 years and fine that may extend to 10 years as well. This is one of the important sections. Added to this, we also have section 66 of the IT Act, which prescribes punishment for the violation of privacy. So what would happen in case there is a person who is not taken the consent of that person, that is the woman in this particular case, if he happens to go on to share some private pictures of this particular person, it means there is violation of privacy where imprisonment can extend up to 3 years, and this person can also be imposed with fine not exceeding 2 lakh rupees or with both as well. So we have seen the IPC, we have also seen what is called as the Information Technology Act. Added to this, we also have Indecent Representation of Women Prohibition Act of 1986. According to section 4, it bars the production, distribution, circulation of any material containing indecent representation of women in any form, whether it happens on an online forum or it happens on an offline forum. If there is indecent representation of a woman, again they can be imposed with penalty as well. These are the laws that we currently have in India when it comes to violations of women's rights when it comes to online and offline bullying. The article further speaks about the responsibilities of the intermediaries. Who are the intermediaries? We have the examples like Facebook, we have the example like Twitter as well as YouTube. What would happen? You have number of people making use of these social media platforms. So what should these intermediaries do? They should ideally inform all their users that you would not be able to upload, modify, publish any of the information which will hurt the sentiments of another person, which is illegal in nature, which can lead to traumatization of that particular individual. If that happens, it can immediately be deleted by the intermediary if that person who is the victim makes a procedural call to the intermediary. And at the same time, if the government and the investigating agencies are asking for such information, the intermediary will also have to give this particular information. So there are some responsibilities which are also accorded to the intermediaries as well. Added to this, if nothing works, the women would also be able to approach the National Commission for Women, where she would be able to put out her grievances as well. And at the same time, we also have the National Cyber Crime Reporting Portal, where the women would also be able to report cyberbullying on this particular portal. Now the question is, are these laws enough? We have the Indian Penal Code, we have the Information Technology Act, we have multiple other acts as well. All these laws are clustered, they are compartmentalized. This means that in spite of the laws, there continues to be perpetuation of violence by the perpetrators of crime. And at the same time, since the information technology era is complex in itself, what the government should do, it should consolidate all these laws, come up with a unique law just to address the cyber crimes. Cyber bullying of women is the need of the hour. So it becomes imperative that people should know their rights, and remedy should be provided by the courts, by the investigating authorities, and by the government. It is this that we have to understand in reference to this article. Now let's look into the next article. This article says Omicron epidemic, third wave or new pandemic. We have discussed about the Omicron virus in the last couple of CNAs. We did discuss about the Omicron, how it started from South Africa, it spread to multiple other countries as well, how there are new variants that are also coming up every now and then. So when we speak about a variant, what is a variant? It is nothing but the virus making its mutations. It is nothing but virus bringing about change in its structure. So when we speak about Omicron, currently what we are witnessing is assumed to be the third wave, or the third wave may also peak in the February month. So this article currently goes on to say that when it comes to the Omicron disease, it appears to be milder. There are people who are not being hospitalized as in the second wave, but that is primarily because most of the people are also vaccinated. What are the unique attributes when it comes to the Omicron? The first unique attribute when it comes to the Omicron happens to be the mutation. As As we discussed, what is mutation? Mutation is the change that a virus sees to its own structure. All the previous variants that we have seen, like the alpha, the beta, the gamma, and delta, have few mutational changes when it comes to the spike protein. But when it comes to Omicron, it has more number of mutations. The earlier variations had about 8 to 9 mutations on the S1 protein, but when it comes to Omicron, there are about 32 to 37 variations. The earlier ones did not have so many mutations on its protein, but what we are witnessing on Omicron is huge number of mutations on its protein. Then we also have to look at the evasion as well. What do we understand by evasion? Let's say, for example, there is natural immunity that is built. Let's say there are people who've already suffered from COVID-19 issue. They were reported positive, and after a considerable period of time, because of the natural antibodies produced, these people became immune to the COVID-19 virus. Then we also have the artificial vaccine as well. What is this artificial vaccine? This is where people are given the vaccination. The vaccination can be in the form of Covishield, it can be in the form of Covaxin, or any other vaccine as well. So when an artificial vaccine is given to a particular person, this also creates the antibodies in that particular person. But what is happening in this particular case? The antibodies, whether it is natural or artificial, are not able to neutralize the Omicron variant. But at the same time, these antibodies are even not able to capture the Omicron virus as well. So these happen to be the major attributes when it comes to the Omicron. So because of its change in the genetic structure, because of the interactions that it is making, because of the disease variations, characteristics, Omicron is also being called as the deviant. Most of it was called as variant, and this is called as deviant because of the characteristics that it is attributed with. Added to this, when it comes to the Omicron, the transmissibility is much faster as well. It is spreading more quickly than other variants as well. In fact, the World Health Organization believes it is likely that the Omicron will also overtake the Delta variant where there is COVID-19 transmission. Does this mean the Omicron virus has led us to the third wave? Few say that third wave has already started, but most of the medical personnel say that the third or the fourth week of January or the first week of February is when we will see the peak of the Omicron virus. Added to this, if this particular issue continues to haunt, there will be more number of infections. This ultimately means that more number of people may hit the hospitals, and this will require more beds. So the government will have to ensure that there are more beds when it comes to the hospitals. Added to this, the government will also have to provide all the equipments that is required for the medical personnel, because there is a possibility that the medical personnel will also get infected, and if they are not working, there could be shortage of the doctors and the healthcare workers, and this could mean that there would be less number of doctors to take care of the people. So what is the need of the hour? The government should ensure that what requires right now is the planning. So this pandemic is here to stay. So it is here to stay with more variants of the virus. So the government should have a long-term planning. The government should enforce strict actions as well, and at the same time it also owes us the responsibility to take suitable actions. On one side, the government will have to ensure that vaccines are provided to those people who are not vaccinated, and it is also our responsibility to take up non-vaccine interventions as well. In spite of all of us getting vaccinated, there are ample of chances where people can get infected. So what should we do? We should take up all personal prevention measures like double masking, hand hygiene, good ventilation, and at the same time we have to avoid crowded place and non-essential travel. It is this that we have to understand in reference to this article. Now let's look into the next article. This article says, what's the roadmap for vaccinating teenagers? The article here is speaking about vaccinating the teenagers between the age group of 15 to 17 years. We have the Government of India, which has recently given permission for vaccinating adolescents from January 3rd. The Union government decided to give vaccination to these adolescents primarily because one, because of the Omicron variant. The other is also because of the recommendations made by the COVID-19 working group of National Technical Advisory Group of Immunization. So because there was recommendation on the other side, because there was a surge of Omicron virus, the government went ahead and said that these adolescents within the age group of 15 to 17 can be provided with vaccine. So the vaccine that is being administered to these individuals are Covaxin. All those whose birth year is 2007 or before are now eligible for the COVID-19 vaccination. If you look into the statistics, as per the figures on the CoWIN portal, 30.8% of those in the 15 to 17 age group have received their first dose as on January 8th. So the question that is being asked is, do children have to get the vaccine? There are two viewpoints to this. We have the World Health Organization, which says that children have the natural immunity, so vaccination may not be required. There are few who also say that children might also be susceptible to the COVID-19 issues. It might get complicated as well, so it is better to have vaccinations even for the children. So there is a dilemma and a confusion. So ultimately, who should take the responsibility? It is the parents who should take the responsibility. They have to decide for the children whether vaccination has to be provided for the children or not. However, one also needs to focus on the side effects as well. As of now, whenever these vaccines were given to the adults, there were post-vaccination effects. This included fever, headache, body ache, heaviness or pain in the injected arm. So when adults were given these vaccinations, most of the adults also took paracetamol or similar tablets when they were administered with the vaccines. But Bharat Biotech, which is the manufacturer of this particular vaccine, has requested children not to take the paracetamol until it is given by the practitioner. So they have asked children not to take the paracetamol or any similar medicines, but they have instead requested that only if it is given by the medicinal practitioner, only then take it, or else you can avoid taking the medicines, says Bharat Biotech. So what is the way forward? As of now, vaccines are being given to these adolescent children. So if there are any adverse events, if there are any side effects, the same will have to be monitored, the same will have to be updated on the database so that they could be able to take suitable actions in the near future. It is this that we have to understand in reference to this article. Now let's look into the next article. This article says, does data support booster dose of same vaccine? The article here is speaking about booster dose. We have discussed about what is the booster dose, what are the positives to the booster dose, what could be the negative implications of the booster dose, should the booster dose be given or not, what are the examples at the global level. We have Israel, we have United States of America, we have United Kingdom have all started giving the booster doses as well. All of this has been explained on 10th of December 2021. Kindly look into video to understand what is this booster dose all about. But in the present situation, if we are speaking about the booster dose, where the government of India has already given permission for those healthcare workers or for those who are above 60 years of age with comorbidities, it is given permission for the homologous vaccine. What do we mean by homologous vaccination? It basically means if a person previously is vaccinated with Covishield, the third dose will also be Covishield. If the person is administered previously with Covaxin, the third dose will also be Covaxin. Then there is something called as heterologous boosting. What does this mean? If the person is vaccinated with Covishield for the first two doses, the third dose might be Pfizer. It can be Moderna, which is what is happening in United States of America. So when we speak about homologous, it is the same vaccine which is given as the third dose. But when it speaks about heterologous, it basically means the first two doses will be the same, the third can be totally different. But to understand what is this booster dose all about, you can visit our 10th December CNA analysis. Now let's look into the next article. This article says Maldives inks key deals with China. The article here is speaking about China and Maldives entering into bilateral agreements. What are these agreements? One is in reference to developing and maintaining infrastructure in the Indian Ocean archipelago, where China would be allowing Maldives to develop. It will be providing loans as well as grants as well. On the other side, it is also speaking about visa-free travel arrangement for the Maldivians intending to travel to China. This will be after the COVID-19 settlement. Added to this, there are other important agreements as well. One is the economic and technical cooperation on grant aid, focusing on social livelihood and infrastructure projects. The government of Maldives also signed a letter of exchange on feasibility study of management and maintenance of China Maldives Friendship Bridge, and this bridge was built with the Chinese assistance, which is a 1.4-kilometer bridge connecting the capital Male with the island of Hulmule. So remember, the island of Hulmule is in the country of Maldives, and it can be very important from the preliminary examination point of view. China has also agreed to back a seawater desalination project and cooperate in the health sector, where these are the important developments between the Chinese as well as the Maldivians. Why does this become important? That is because India is having a vigilant eye between China as well as the Maldivian relationship. If you look into the previous regime and its operations with China and India, it had totally ignored India and it was only in support of China. But the present regime in Maldives happened to balance both India as well as China. In fact, the tilt is more towards India as well. However, in the present situation, you also have the opposition political parties which are also going after Maldivian government, coming up saying there is India out campaign in Maldives, which basically means that they do not want the Indian military presence in Maldives, and at the same time the opposition is also saying the Maldivian government not to support the call of the Indian projects in Maldives. So basically, India would be waiting and watching how these developments and agreements could establish the relationship between China and Maldives and how it will impact India in the near future. We are expecting more articles about this issue. So once we have them, we will take this article in an elaborate way. Now let's look into the next article. This article says the Davos arbitration. This is an article which will be discussed in our economy this week. Now let's look into the mains practice question. There is a dire need to have a proper legislation for cyberbullying in India to prevent the spread of misogyny and hate. Do you agree? Justify. Next question. A future focused pandemic policy that takes into consideration all aspects of a citizen's life is the need of the hour. Discuss. So please write all your answers on the comment section. Peer review. Do give positive feedback to your friends' answers. In fact, you can also upload an image of your answers by visiting our website as well. So this is it for today. Thank you for watching. All the best.